Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
President Bongbong Marcos orders stricter safety protocols following fatal accidents at NAIA and SCTX.
Re-electionist Senator Bongo maintains lead in latest Pulse Asia survey a week before the 2025 midterm elections. COMELEC warns candidates who receive campaign support from foreign sources may face disqualification. And the Vatican says all 133 cardinals voting in conclave are now in Rome. First in the news, re-electionist Senator Bongo remains the front-runner in the latest Pulse Asia survey, just a week before the 2025 midterm elections. Go topped the poll with a 62.2% rating. Trailing him are ACT-CIS Representative Erwin Tulfo with 42.4%, former Senate President Tito Soto with 41.1%, and Senator Bato de la Rosa with 41%, all tied for second to fourth place. Senator Bong Revilla, former Senator Ping Lacson, Ben Tulfo, and Senator Lito Lapid ranked between 5th and 11th place. Also in the winning circle are Makati Mayor Abby Binay, Senator Pia Cayetano, Willie Revillame, Representative Camille Villar, former Senator Manny Pacquiao, and Bam Aquino. The survey was conducted from April 20 to 24 among 2,400 respondents. And now to talk more about that, we are joined by Professor Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science. Hi, Prof. Good morning, and thanks for joining us again.
Well, good morning, Ma'am Angela and Sir Angelo. Thanks for having me here again.
Prof, this is it. 1 week before the midterm elections. This is probably the last survey from Pulse Asia. What is your reaction to the latest survey?
Well, I think it's the same result as we had in the previous months, particularly this month, April, because there were surveys done by other survey firms for this month, and then last March and February. So I think they're almost the same. The results are almost the same, except that, of course, there are some names that are included here, which were not included in the last surveys. You know, so from if we're going to base the election results on the survey, it seems or it's possible that there can be as many as 9 administration bets that can make it to the Magic 12. And then from PDP Laban, and then I don't know, the remaining slot will either go to a celebrity, a showbiz celebrity, or I don't know. I think it's a toss-up between the candidates because there are 14 candidates. Yes, who can possibly make it to the Magic 12. Dalawang pwedeng mawala doon, ano? And who knows kung sino yung makakuha ng last spot.
Right.
Prof, I want to talk about Senator Bato de la Rosa also and Senator Bongo, who are associated, of course, with the Duterte camp. Tumaas ang numbers nila continuously even after the arrest of former President Duterte. Pero parang this arrest did not rub off on the other candidates. Why do you think so?
Actually, sir, it did rub off, except that they failed to get the necessary numbers in order to make it to the Magic 12, because there was an improvement in their positions. Say, for example, senatorial bet Jimmy Bondoc, Attorney Jimmy Bondoc, was very far from the Magic 12. Bago na aresto si dating Pangulong Duterte. But after the arrest, his ranking has improved significantly.
Okay, I wanna go to former Senator
Bam Aquino and former Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Nakita po natin sa mga previous surveys, lagi silang magkatabi. But right now, sa latest survey po ng Pulse Asia, medyo umangat po at kumbaga, sinasabi nga natin, may konting pag-asa si Senator Bam Aquino na makapasok sa Magic 12 if possible. Pero medyo mas lumaglag pa po si Kiko Pangilinan. What do you think happened there?
Tama kayo dyan, nung previous survey, o yung mga previous surveys, para magkadikit sila. And they were just a little outside the Magic 12.
They would always campaign together.
Yes. Because I think they used to belong to the same political party. And naman mga ideologies, hindi naman nagkakalayo. So they are both progressive minded lawmakers. So yun, I don't know how to explain former Senator Bam Aquino has based on the survey to the Magic 12, and then itong si former Senator Kiko Pangilinan has his position has moved far away from the 12. So it's possible, siguro one possible reason is that when the conflict between the two political camps, of course the administration and the Duterte camp has intensified, both of them refused to join the discourse regarding conflict.
O to take a stand. Ika nga.
Yeah. That can possibly explain kung bakit kumbaga man they're not in the Magic 12. Kumbaga man minsan nandyan sila, minsan wala. So that has made them such kind of position of not being, involved in the discourse about the conflict has made them a little bit irrelevant.
Pero Prof, yung endorsement ni former Vice President Leni Robredo kay former Senator Manny Pacquiao and kay former DILG Chief Abalos, meron ba tong impact sa standing ni former Senator Bam at former Senator Kiko Pangilinan, given that they're all within striking distance pero alanganin?
Yun na nga I think napag-usapan natin siya the last time na yung endorsement na yun can be detrimental to the candidacies of to the campaigns of former Senator Kiko Pangilinan and former Senator Bam Aquino, who were both endorsed by former Vice President Leni Robredo. Ang naging impact sa kanila yan, parang bumaba pa yung kanilang ranking sa surveys dahil yung ilan sa mga supporters ni yung boto galing sa mga supporters ni former Vice President Leni Robredo ay maaaring napunta o mapunta doon kay Senator Manny Pacquiao at saka kay former Secretary Benhur Abalos.
Pero Prof, bakit yung 16 million na so-called pink wave na there's a movement that was happening at that time ng presidential elections, parang hindi na ma-master or hindi na-consolidate yung 16 million na yun? O hindi na parang nag-fizzle out ng konti yung strength ng movement na yun in terms of how yung impact ng endorsements ni former VP Leni?
Opo, kasi tawag dito, mahirap pa i-test yung kanyang yung kanyang endorsement power. Hindi pa natin, in fact, di natin nakita yan na nagkaroon ng positive contribution all throughout the campaign ni former Senator Bam Aquino and former Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Tapos here we are, may dalawang panibago. So most likely ganun rin ang baka walang impact din. So tingin ko tama kayo, nag-fizzle out kasi before there was a common cause.
Yeah.
Pero ngayon kasi wala na eh. In fact, kumbaga man, ang magkaaway na hindi na yung yung kampo ni for this election hindi na magkalaban yung mga pink lawan at saka yung mga Duterte followers or supporters mo DDS. Ang magkalaban na iba na eh. It's between the DDS and the BBM supporters.
But Prof, do you think there's going to be a change naman doon sa top spot ng senatorial race. Because if you would compare this doon sa senatorial race the last time, number 1 lagi si Senator Tulfo, pero pagdating nung halalan talaga, ang lumabas sa number 1 ay si Senator Robin Padilla, and we all are witness to that. And ngayon naman po, nakita natin all throughout the surveys, laging si Erwin Tulfo naman yung number 1. Pero after some time, after few weeks, naging number 1 na si Senator Bongo. Do you think magkakaroon pa rin po ng doon, pagbabago pagdating mismo ng halalan?
Well, there are some things po now, some factors na hindi nako-consider ng mga surveys. Like political machinery, at saka yung last hurrah ng mga senatorial candidates. Things that they do on the eve of the elections or a few days before the elections, hindi po yan na-capture ng survey na to, no? So, to answer your question, it's possible. Kaya nga lang, statistically speaking, very comfortable yung lead niya ni Senator Bongo over the others. In particular, kay Congressman Erwin Tulfo. Ang nakalagay dito, 62.2.
Yeah.
Voting for him, while for the second placer, si Erwin Tulfo, 42.4 lang. Kaya hindi sila statistically tied.
Yeah. That's true.
This might say a lot about the number 1 position, the top position coming election.
Pero Prof, given a tail end, and we all know that machinery matters the most sa tail end ng isang campaign leading up to the voting, no? Sino ang magbe-benefit most sa machinery? Is it the top 8? So if you're within the 8, you're safe already. Ang medyong critical pa dyan is 9 going down.
Yes, ang magbe-benefit po dito ay yung mas may malaking political machinery, yung may well-oiled na political machinery. And we're referring to the administration coalition. Of course, the resources, they have the vast political network. So it's possible na yung scenario na ma-overtake pa ni Congressman Erwin Tulfo, okay siya yung mag-number 1 sa darating na election, we can entertain the possibility that...
Pero Prof, yung naman, how about Senator Amy Marcos? No, this is itong survey na to lumabas na after ng official endorsement ni Vice President Sara Duterte sa kanya, but somehow we can see medyo talagang siya nakalambitin pa rin doon sa number sa ilalim. So what do you think happened here?
Well, it seems in gamble niya, parang it has given her a momentum, kaya nga lang nag-fizzle out na nung huli. I think it also has something to do with the the feud between the two political camps. It's still intense, pero yung narrative, yung impact niya sa mga voters, parang nag-iba na Kumbaga napunta na sa iba yung attention ng mga tao, napunta sa ibang issues. So yung sanang momentum that Senator Amy Marcos gained after she was endorsed by the Vice President, kumbaga nawala ng momentum, hindi na sustain. That's why she is in the 14th to 18th rank. Ang sabi dito sa sa survey. So nakulangan sa push. I don't know kung anong pwede pa niyang gawin. Kasi pwede pa naman, medyo malapit pa naman siya sa Magic 12. Baka magawa pa niya ng paraan.
Yun, tsaka Prof, yung isang gusto ko rin itanong sa'yo about yung kay Willie Revillame, yung si TV host Willie Revillame. Some surveys would have him in the middle of the pack, some surveys wala siya. May some surveys medyo nakakaangat siya sa 5 or 6. Bakit naging iba-iba drastically ang positioning niya every survey period? Well,
ang unang-una pong explanation, possible explanation is that iba-ibang weeks kinokonduct yung mga surveys. And ang surveys naman po is considered as a snapshot of yung perception of the people about the political reality. So probably there are times na very popular siya, kumbaga man yung perception sa kanya ng mga tao very positive, but there are also times na hindi. And also his position is also affected by some candidates who are at the bottom part of the surveys and that they're moving up. Iba, of course, may effect yan sa kanya, may domino effect. Bumababa yung, yung kanyang rank.
Pero may nakikita ka bang, Prof, na yung mga, what leans towards Willie more? Yung mga DDS o yung mga BBM followers? Kasi may mga, tinatawag nila yung fence candidates, yung mga fence sitters Saan mas katanggap-tanggap si Willie Revillame?
Well, it's hard to say kasi hindi mahirap po sabihin demography ng ng mga followers ng both sides. We cannot say na halimbawa if we're going to judge their in level of discernment, baka sabihin natin dahil DDS ay mamaintindihan yung imahe at saka yung messaging ni Willie Revillame. So it's hard to say, pero I think since he has not announced his support to any of this opposing side, baka makakuha siya ng boto sa parehong yung political camps.
Ang isa ko pa po nakikita dito, Prof, dun sa survey na talagang very consistent without any fanfare, hindi ko nga nakikita kung nangangampanya, ay si Senator Lito Lapid. Diba? Ever since, andyan lang siya. Do you think, aside from name recall, ano pa po yung factors na nakikita po natin na kaya po siya nandiyan ngayon sa Magic 12?
Yung po kanyang yung kanyang movie exposure, yung sa telenovela niya. He has already been endorsed by yung mga kasamahan niya doon sa ginaganapan niya na telenovela. So araw-araw siyang nakikita doon. Plus endorso pa siya nung bida doon sa na yun. So
nasa admin pa siya.
Nasa admin pa siya. And yung kanyang image pa na very humble and very approachable. I think all these things work for to his advantage.
Yeah, Prof, would you say na this this particular election is parang ang nangyayari, it's more on based na kung DDS ka ba or BBM ka more than issues? Kasi if you're going to say na issue-based itong election, yung question is bakit nandyan si mataas si Senator Bongo at si Senator Bato when they are associated with having pro-China policies or part of the pro-China movement, when in fact, if you look at the surveys, yung mga sa karamihan sa Pilipino, almost 80-90% would veer towards yung anti-China.
Actually, that's a good observation po, no? Yung the fact that we can see na in the surveys, itong si Senator Bato de la Rosa and Senator Bongo are in the top siguro top 6 positions. Shows na this election is very much determined and influenced by the conflict between the administration and the Duterte family and their allies. So simula po nung nakita natin yan, simula nung siguro mga bandang February or March, even before the
arrest.
Few months before the arrest, parang nakapag-shift na ng momentum, ng trend, from downward trend being experienced by the Duterte camp, biglang na-reverse yun, based on the survey results. February, March, and then leading up to the arrest of the former president. Doon na gumanda yung survey numbers nila. To consolidate, and they were able to come up with narratives na talaga naman nag-gain ng traction.
Okay.
So, yun, very much influenced by the and sad to say, yung mga totoong issues na dapat ina-address ng gobyerno natin at ng mga kandidato ay nalalagay sa sideline, hindi napapansin.
What about po si Senator Francis Tolentino? Kung pagbabasihan po natin yung mga surveys from the very first start of this campaign period, talagang hindi po siya nakakasali sa Magic 12. So, ano pong mangyayari doon? Ngayon po, medyo parang may pihit po siya. Gumagawa po siya ng mga Senate hearing tungkol sa yung kanya pong sa China, no? Tingin niyo po ba makakahabol pa po siya?
Medyo mahirap po yung sitwasyon yan ni Senator Tolentino kasi nanalo siya noong 2022. He was with a different political group. political party. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was with PDP Laban,
Yes.
Yes.
your president's political party. And nadala siya nung yung political base ng PDP Laban at saka ng Duterte family. And I think that explains why he won in the 2022 elections. Now that he had shifted his political alliance, he had moved to another political party or political group, nawala po yung kanyang yung support that made him win during the 2022 election. And I think based on the surveys, parang he has not found a replacement.
Same goes with Prof. Former DILG Secretary Benhur Abalos. Some would say na isa siya sa mga casualty ng admin slate na kumbaga diba, bumababa kasi yung trust rating ng admin slate ng admin mismo, ng PBBM admin. Tapos in essence, sa survey lumalabas, hindi naaangat ng admin yung kandidato na to, si Senator Francis Tolentino at saka si Benhur Abalos.
Opo, kasi if they're going to rely on the endorsement of their leader, who happens to be the president, medyo sumadsad rin ho yung survey numbers ng ating presidente. And in a presidential form of government, the president's popularity matters a lot. Oo. Not just in policy making, at saka program implementation, but also in elections. So, hindi naman natin masabing unpopular si President Bongbong Marcos. It's just that he's not also very popular. Parang popularity niya mag-grab off sa mga kandidato niya, mga senatorial bets niya, na who are not doing well in the surveys.
Wala siyang magic like in Arab magic of old, yung mga nung una, di ba, Prof? Finally, Prof, I'd like to ask you, every election there is always a dark horse or a big surprise na nangyayari. Well, if I were to ask you, what do you think will be the big surprise this election, or sino ang dark horse?
Well, anyone outside the Magic 12 can be a dark horse po, no? Pero mas malaki yung potential na manalo yung mga malapit lang sa Magic 12. Mga hindi ko pinag-uusapan, pero malay nyo, baka gulatin tayo. Nakikita ko dito, bawa si Congressman Marcoleta.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh, interesting. Kasi I think in the past few surveys na nakikita ko yung yung kanyang pangalan, and sabi ko, bakit kaya? So sabi ko, probably because he has the support of the Iglesia ni Cristo and also the support of the Duterte followers. So hindi siya nalalayo sa Magic 12. So yun ang una ko naiisip eh. And then of course I'm also wishing for sana the inclusion of Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Ideally, dalawa sana sila ni former Senator Bam Aquino, pero kung di kaya, at least one of them.
Alright. So, actually, pwede nga pa yan makita natin iba pang minor changes kasi halos lahat ng mga religious sectors, hindi pa sila officially endorse ng mga candidates. So, we will see about that. Alam ko, initial lang ang Jesus is Lord naglabas lang sila ng top 5 nila na in-endorse nila. But with that po, maraming salamat po sa inyong insights, Professor Dennis Coronacion, ang Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science. Thank you so much. In other news, the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting in Manila is geared up for May 12. Backed by PLDT, stronger internet connections are in place to ensure fast, reliable vote monitoring. Here's the report.
They can do something about it. They can disqualify all of them.
That was a challenge of Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting Chairman Evelyn Singson to COMELEC Chairman George Garcia. Singson made the statement during the launch of the PPCRV Command Center at the PLDT building in Manila. For the PPCRV, recurring election issues like vote buying and personality-based voting continue to pose challenges. In response, COMELEC Chairman George Garcia stressed that the solution lies with the voters.
Nasa mga mamamayan, dapat talaga i-guide natin sila paano po makapamili ng tama, lalo ang kabataan.
To help ensure a clean and credible election on May 12, the PPCRV is deploying around 350,000 volunteers to monitor the transmission and counting of votes. The organization has partnered with PLDT for stronger internet support.
Hindi na ho trabaho to ng mga matatanda lang at mga ka-age natin, pero yung kabataan talaga. Smart provided mobile phones, SIM cards, prepaid load and volunteer shirts to empower thousands of youth, making them active participants in protecting our democratic process.
This year, the PPCRV and COMELEC will conduct an unofficial parallel count for both local and national positions.
COMELEC warns of disqualification for candidates with foreign campaign funding. This as the Senate probes alleged Chinese-involved trolling operations. The details in this report.
The Commission on Elections warns any candidate found to have received campaign support from foreign sources could be disqualified. During a Senate hearing, COMELEC officials said they are seeking help from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to trace the origins of funds given to candidates. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia stressed the need to monitor transactions from abroad, saying foreign money could be used to hire services that spread massive disinformation.
Sana ma-monitor din yung mga pagpapadala ng pondo, lalo na coming from the outside. Kasi po, siyempre pagka po tumulong ang mga yan, maliban sa tulong sa pamamagitan ng social media, financial na tulong po eh. Pwedeng ipang kontrata o pang-hire ng mga services na magkakaroon ng mga massive disinformation at misinformation. So sana po sabi namin, when it comes to the anti-money laundering, maipatupad natin ng maayos, makita namin yung flow ng pera.
The National Security Council is now coordinating with other agencies to investigate whether any candidates are being funded by foreign entities. COMELEC says it is waiting for the results of the NSC's investigation. If proven, not just the candidate, but an entire political party could be disqualified. In the same hearing, the public relations firm Infinitus Marketing Solutions, allegedly tied to the Chinese embassy, was questioned on its supposed role in hiring online trolls and spreading disinformation. Senator Francis Tolentino presented documents claiming the firm was contracted to conduct public opinion guidance on social media for China worth 930,000 pesos. Tolentino also showed a document claiming that the firm helped spread blog posts describing President Bongbong Marcos' administration as dangerous and criticizing his family's past. But Infinitus co-founder Paul Lee denied all accusations. He claimed they have no knowledge of the documents and did not authorize any disinformation efforts.
I don't know about this. I cannot recognize. I categorically deny the allegation that Infinitus has engaged in any unlawful activity, including the spread of disinformation to influence this coming election. The supposed contract shown is not known to us, was never authorized by us.
Tolentino, however, said Lee may have repeatedly lied under oath and warned that espionage charges could be filed against active officials of the company. The Senate will resume its hearing after the 2025 midterm elections. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, We Are One News.
Tapos sinagot pa ni Lee yung 900,000 peso check na supposedly binayad, no? Was for an event about Chinese-Philippine relations, which was also attended daw by some cabinet officials and no less than President Bongbong Marcos. So parang that was not a check was according to him, really, for the spread of false narratives or information or troll farming. Just merely he activated an event according to him.
Pero kasi yun nga, sabi dun sa investigation dyan sa Senate, according to Senator Francis Tolentino, Chinese embassy daw has paid Infinitus ito with this allegedly itong check-in na to. Pero we will see kung ano nga magiging kalalabasan ng investigation na yan. And as to dun sa sinasabi ni COMELEC Chairman George Garcia, yung mga may foreign back na mga candidates, pwede silang kumbaga ma-disqualify, no? Even the entire political party. Pero ang sinasabi dito ni COMELEC Chairman Garcia, the clock is ticking, 'di ba? Kasi kapag po once na proklama 12:01 ng May 13, ang mga kandidato na to, mawawala na ng jurisdiction ang COMELEC. Unless, sabi nga nila, inaantay namin yung investigation ng National Security Council, at least kahit papano kung meron na ipasa sa kanila, may pending case. So kung may pending case, pwede nila i-hold yung proclamation ng certain candidates na allegedly may foreign-backed na kandidato, or pwede nilang i-suspend nga yung tawag dito, yung proclamation ng kandidato na yon. So yun yung sinasabi ni COMELEC Chairman George Garcia.
Given naman yan all over the world, every country bawal ang foreign-backed candidates, because the point is there
magkakaroon ka ng foreign interest when you're supposed to have an foreign independent policy. Pero before we go, ang question ng marami is bakit ngayon mo lang ginawa yung
Senate hearing?
Parang is it because yung numbers mo are alanganin and you've seen the surveys na madaming against the China policy. So, parang sinasabi nila, baka he's trying to get his numbers up. Hindi po tayo nagsabi nun. Yung mga ibang pundits o mga kaaway niya sa politika.
Pero ang NSC seems like backing his up, kasi sinasabi nga, him up rather, sinasabi nga nila kasi dito, smoking gun, yung resibo na pinakita ni Senator Tolentino.
Hindi naman nila sinasabi na false yung hearing or yung titignan ng hearing, di ba? Ang sinasabi lang tao yung timing. Why wasn't it not done or why was it hindi mas maagang ginawa? But let's see, ilan days na lang election na and then pag after the election meron a few more days sa 19th Congress. Let's see kung ano ma-accomplish pa nito, di ba? Moving forward.
All right. Meanwhile, President Bongbong Marcos attended the One Cebu People's Rally in Dumanhog Town on Monday. The president was accompanied by former Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos and Lani Mercado, wife of Senator Bong Revilla. In his speech, Marcos emphasized the importance of securing victories for the candidates of Alianza para sa Bagong Pilipinas. However, he did not mention his sister, Senator Amy Marcos, or Las Piñas Representative Camille Villar, both of whom are endorsed by Vice President Sara Duterte.
Kung ang senador na maihahalal natin, na maihahalal sa eleksyon ay kontra sa administrasyon, ang magiging problema, haharangin lahat ng gustong gawin ng administrasyon. Kaya't wag po tayo mapunta ron. Patunayan natin na hindi lamang sa taong bayan tayo'y nagkakaisa. Hindi lamang sa politika tayo'y nagkakaisa. Ngunit ang hangarin natin nagkakaisa sa Senado.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos ordered stricter safety protocols following fatal accidents at NAIA and SETEX. Here's the report.
The departure entrance at NAIA Terminal 1 is now open again following the ramming of an SUV that killed 2 people, including a 5-year-old girl. The site has been cleaned and cleared, but the memory of the incident still lingers. A temporary barricade has been set up where the deadly crash took place. The bollard or vehicle barrier that failed to stop the SUV has already been replaced and reinforced with concrete. Transportation Secretary Vince Dizon personally inspected the site and could not hide his dismay over the defective bollard.
Makikita mo kagad sa bollard na bumigay na hindi siya ganun katibay. Obviously, nakalusot eh. Ang purpose nga ng bollard, dapat yun tuminto na dun mismo. Mr. Ramon Ang and I spoke about it. Most likely, they will be replaced by the operator, by San Miguel.
The 47-year-old driver of the SUV is now in custody of the Philippine National Police Aviation Security Group. Police say the driver was dropping off a passenger at the airport when the incident occurred.
Nung umalis po yung kanyang pasaheros, nakita natin na umabante. And then pagbalik po niya sa sasakyan, and then when he attempt na aalis na po sana, ay pumabante yung sasakyan, nataranta ang kanyang apakan. Akala niya is yung brake, but it was the accelerator.
He has tested negative for illegal drugs, but is facing multiple charges. Meanwhile, in light of the incident at NAIA and a deadly pile-up at the SETEX Toll Plaza that killed 10 people, President Bongbong Marcos has ordered full accountability. He has directed Dizon to tighten rules on driver's license issuance and conduct a nationwide safety audit of bus companies. Marcos insists that companies failing to meet safety standards must face sanctions.
We owe it to the victims and their families to act, not only with sympathy, but with resolve. These lives will not be lost in vain. We will make the changes that need to be made. We will demand accountability where it is due.
Actually, technically, wala naman talagang major increase in road fatalities. Matagal nang meron mga road fatalities. It's just that may social media that lumalabas yung kwento about this. Nakikita yung kapalpakan ng wala. I don't know how to explain it kasi it's nakakairita eh. Deaths from accidents is
parang
really...
it's a collective effort na humantong tayo sa ganito.
First of all, number one, the driver ng SUV, if he were siguro in the right condition, hindi siya nagkamali sa pagtapak. Number two, tama si Secretary Vince Dizon, kung nakatsinelas ka, mahirap magmaneho, lalo na pag nakatsinelas kasi minsan dumudulas yung rubber sa ilalim ng accelerator, naiipit. So yung tendency na sinahatak ang paa mo, pressing the accelerator. Number three, yung bollard.
Yes.
Kung yung bollard was maayos, it could have not really totally stopped the vehicle, but it could have mitigated or at least binawasan yung impact, giving enough time for the people behind the bollard maybe to get out of the way.
Isipin mo, ewan ko, magkano yung, chinecheck ko pa kung magkano yung naging budget for that at that time, no? Nung bago pa mailagay sa company nila Ramon yung pag-build ng bollard dyan. Magkano yung ginastos, yung inilaan na budget for that. Only to find out na ganyan yung quality ng bollard na nilagay dyan sa may naiya. Nakita naman natin also ang tawag doon, ang babaw, di ba?
Yeah.
Ang paglalagay ng bollard doon. As I've said earlier, parang it's a collective effort na humantong tayo sa ganito. One, you said, I agree with you, yung sa driver. Number two, ito yung bollard. Number three, of course, yun nga, yung pagdating naman doon sa SETEX, di ba? Yung isipin mo, may long-standing policy since 2016 na kailangan kapag long drive ang isang bus, merong kang karelyebo na driver. Para, di ba, in the event na pagod yung isang driver, may papalit para hindi humantong sa ganitong aksidente. And yung pala, hindi naman ginagawa ng mga bus operators itong yung paglalagay ng karelyebo. And hindi rin sinecheck ng DOTR kung may mga nagko-comply doon sa policy na yun.
We have to check the gray area because what constitutes a long drive ata is 8 hours and anything below 8 hours, hindi sila maglalagay ng karelyebo because hindi siya considered long drive. Ang problema dito, and I agree also again with Secretary Dizon, na maybe we should lower yung driving time ng isang
4 hours na nga yung sinasabi ni
kasi baka anything above yung sinasabi mo above 6 hours kasi ngayon above 6 hours yun ang long drive. So kung 6 hours ka and below, wala kang nakalaan na reliever. So napagod ka na, wala kang reliever, talagang ma-aksidente ka. Ako, di ba, mag-drive ka lang 2 or 3 hours, grabe
dito
na.
Sa EDSA lang.
Sa EDSA ka pa lang, pagod na. What more kung nag-round trip ang isang bus driver to and from.
Tapos dito pa dyan sa highway na yan, sa SETEX, napakaluwag, malawak na, di ba, pwede kang mabilis na tumakbo dyan, thinking na wala naman ikaw mababanggang mga sasakyan. Pero as I've said earlier, yun nga, yung policy na yun, sabi nga ni ASEC Mon Ilaga ng DOTR, I was able to talk to him yesterday via One Balita Pilipinas, bubuhayin daw nila yung IRR ng batas na yon, yung pagkakaroon ng relyebo ng isang bus company, isang bus sa isang long drive. Tapos, of course, yung mga bus driver naman, medyo umaangal sila kasi kapag 4 hours na lang, ibig sabihin, mababawasan yung sweldo nila. Diba? Tapos, of course, yung issue ng mandatory drug testing. Diba? Isa rin yan sa concern din natin. Yung ibang mga drivers, ayaw nila dahil baka daw gastos yan. O di, pasagot natin sa operators or sa mismong gobyerno. Pero ang importante dito, if you implement this mandatory drug testing, dapat, diba, itong maayos nilang implementahin itong drug testing. Wala yung mga fixer, wala yung mga nagdodoktor ng mga drug test results, etc. Yun lang naman.
And before we go, mabati ko lang yung sa yung layout ng airport. If you could see, di ba, yung sa drop-off, yung nakita yung video, yung mga cars nakaharap kung saan yung mga tao. Di ba? So parang kasi in most European countries or even yung airport sa Hong Kong, sa drop-off, whether it's arrival or departure, the cars don't really face where the entrance. It faces parallel to the entrance because why would you put the car facing the passengers when something can happen? And to rely on a bollard, ayan, tignan mo, nakaharap yung mga kotse towards the and hindi lang parking na nakaharap yan. That's going forward. Most cars, tendency nila is to move forward. So an accident is bound to happen kung ganyan ang layout. They should follow other layouts sa ibang country na parallel ang car. Ang drop-off mo, sa side, they'll go down, tas parallel to that.
Pero may narinig din akong report na magandang point, yung ang nangyayari daw kasi dyan sa mga drop-off, nagmamadali sila, minamadali sila ng mga security guards. So nangyayari, kapag na-drop off sila, hindi na sila nag-neutral, hindi na sila nagpa-park, kasi knowing na aalis naman kami kaagad.
Exactly, dapat kaya nga parallel ang car, hindi nakaharap sa ano. Diba? Anyway, let's move on. Suspected Chinese spy arrested last week has allegedly accessed mobile phone data of state workers, including about 5,000 subscribers. The National Bureau of Investigation says the suspect used an international mobile subscriber identity device to gain access to this data. The device, capable of intercepting mobile communications and tracking locations, was deployed near critical government offices like the Supreme Court and COMELEC. NBI officials revealed that the IMSI catcher picked up data from both government employees and passers-by with a range of up to 3 kilometers. The agency is currently examining the data and plans to release an initial report before the May 12 election. For its part, COMELEC stressed that their election data remains uncompromised.
Meanwhile, the reward for the information of the co-mastermind behind businessman Anson Ke's killing is now 10 million pesos. Authorities are tracking down Wendy Gong, also known as Kelly Tan Lim, who allegedly arranged Ke's abduction. The PNP found that the ransom money passed through two casino junket operators, one run by Chinese national Li Duan Wang. The money was converted to crypto and split across multiple e-wallets. In April, President Bongbong Marcos vetoed Wang's Filipino citizenship over national security concerns. The PNP said it is working with local and international agencies to freeze the funds and catch all involved.
Nakaano na po yung Bureau of Immigration natin para hindi sila makalabas ng bansa natin. No? Meron na tayong red notice against these people para ma-alert lahat ng bansa na huwag silang tanggapin o pagtanggap sa kanila, i-freeze sila.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on The One News.
All 133 cardinals expected to join the conclave to elect a new pope have arrived at the Vatican. Here's a report.
The College of Cardinals gathered for their 11th General Congregation to prepare for the upcoming conclave. A total of 170 cardinals attended the meeting, including 132 cardinal electors. Discussions focus on migration, synodality, and unity, with more than 20 interventions addressing global conflicts and the faith journey of migrants. The cardinals also reflected on their duty to support the future pope and strengthen the Church's sense of communion. The Vatican has confirmed that all 133 cardinal electors have now arrived in Rome. Among them are 3 Filipino cardinals, Luis Antonio Tagle, Jose Advincula, and Pablo Virgilio David. During a mass at the Pontificio Collegio Filipino, the 3 remained distant from the public and refrained from their usual post-mass greetings. According to Father Greg Gaston, rector of the Collegio, this is a time of deep prayer and reflection for the cardinal electors.
Kasi nga medyo sila no, parang silent mode, kumbaga nakadasal, concentrate muna sila.
Meanwhile, preparations at the Sistine Chapel and accommodations at Casa Santa Marta are nearly complete. Red curtains have been installed on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, where the newly elected Pope will deliver his first public blessing. The conclave is set to begin tomorrow, May 7. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
Now to discuss more about the upcoming papal conclave, we have Father Jerome Ceciliano, the Executive Secretary of the CBCP's Commission on Public Affairs. Father, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you also for inviting me. Good morning to everyone.
All right, Father. In conclave is about to begin. I think it's tomorrow, no? Tomorrow. But there are some things lang siguro you could teach the faithful. Tidbits about the conclave. May nagsasabi daw na any baptized Catholic can, supposedly be elected Pope. Is that correct?
Well, actually, it's the cleric. A cleric is an ordained minister. Ibig sabihin, kahit ordinaryong pare ay pwede namang maging Santo Papa, pwede ma-elect. But then, realistically speaking, sino ba naman na mag-i-elect halimbawa ng isang katulad ko, na isang ordinaryong pare, na hindi naman kilala ng mga cardinal electors. Kaya mapapansin natin, in the recent past, ang lahat naman ng mga nakahalal na Santo Papa ay nanggagaling din sa hanay ng mga kardinal.
Ako naman po, Father, kasi some observers would say the conclave process daw po lacks transparency. How would you respond to that? And bakit po ba? What's the wisdom behind it? Bakit hindi po dapat meron pong secrecy yung prosesong iyon?
Well, the very clear wisdom behind it is the cardinal elector should not be pressured by the outside world in choosing the next leader of the Catholic Church. Tayo halimbawa, kapag naghahalal ng ating mga elected officials, ang daming pressures dyan eh. Kaya nga may tinatawag tayo na patronage politics, politics of guns, boons, and gold, politics of, ano pa ba yan, kaya kung ano-anong pamamwersa, pamimilit. Dito, sa paghahalal ng Santo Papa, dapat freely given yung decision nila na piliin ang isang kandidato, cardinal, o di kaya kung sino man dyan, na maging leader nga ng Katolikong simbahan. So yun ang basic na reason kung bakit ay sinisequester sila sa loob ng Sistine Chapel. Wala nga dapat na mga gadgets sa loob ng Sistine Chapel para mag-interfere doon sa kanilang gagawing proseso dahil nga ayaw nila na mabahiran ito ng impluwensya ng mga tao sa labas ng Sistine Chapel.
Kaya pala to the point na nabasa ko po kasi sa isang article, pati daw po yung phone line doon within the vicinity kung saan gagawin yung conclave ay puputulin nila to avoid nga daw po outside influences.
Correct.
Father, okay, so tomorrow, what's going to happen? At least meron tayong alam na overview. Ano po yung unang mangyayari bago i-sequester yung mga cardinal? May yung special mass? Will there be special prayers? Usually, how many votes are allotted for the first day?
So, isa-isahin natin sa tanong mo, no? Ano ba ang unang gagawin? Ang unang gagawin dyan, magkakaroon ng misa for the election of the Pope. Approximately, gagawin yan mga alas 4 ng hapon o alas 5 ng hapon dito sa Pilipinas, pero 10 o'clock doon sa Vatican. After ng misa nila, sila ay iipunin doon po sa Apostolic Palace. May chapel doon, yung Pauline Chapel sa Apostolic Palace. And then magpo-procession sila patungo ng Sistine Chapel. Habang sila ay nagpo-procession patungo ng Sistine Chapel, ay ini-invoke nila yung Litany of the Saints. Pag ando doon na sila sa loob ng Sistine Chapel, ang gagawin naman ay pag-awit ng Veni Creator Spiritus. Ito naman ay invocation ng Holy Spirit para gabayan ang gagawin nilang pagpipili sa susunod na magiging Santo Papa. And then, pagkatapos itong pag-aawit ng Veni Creator Spiritus, sila ay magpe-pledge naman ng secrecy. Okay? Dahil kinakailangan nga na ito ay lingid sa kaalaman ng mga tao sa labas. Yung gagawin nila walang pressure, walang pwede mag-interfere, kaya may absolute secrecy, gagawin nila yung pledge na yon. And then pagkatapos ng pag-pledge, sasabihin ngayon ng Master of Ceremonies na exa omnes, ibig sabihin everybody out. Okay, lalabas na ngayon yung mga hindi naman cardinal electors, pero maiiwan muna yung Master of Ceremonies at saka yung preacher na inelect nila. Anong ibig sabihin ng preacher? Bago sila mag-umpisa ng botohan, meron munang reflections na gagawin yung preacher. Ang pagkakaalam ko, yung preacher na to ay yung dating preacher ng papal household, isang Franciscan cardinal, si Cardinal Cantalamessa. So siya muna magbibigay ng reflection. After makapagbigay ng reflection, yung dalawang ito, yung nag-preach at saka yung Master of Ceremonies, aalis na rin sila sa loob ng Sistine Chapel. At doon na uumpisan ngayon yung pagpipili ng mga kardinal. Ngayon, isa-isa, habang sila ay nakapag-decide na, sinulat na nila doon sa piece of paper kung sino man ang kanilang pipiliin, ay meron na naman silang pledge. Ano yung pledge na yon? Sasabihin nila na Jesus Christ as my witness and then as my judge. Ang sinulat ko dito ay yung karapat-dapat talaga na mamuno ng simbahan sa mata ng Diyos. Tapos yan ay nakalagay sa isang parang platito, pate, or urn. Tapos ihuhulog nila yan doon sa malaking chalice. And then lahat sila, no, sasabihin yon, Jesus Christ as my guide, inspiration, and then as my kumbaga judge. Pag natapos na nila lahat yon, ay uumpisahan na yung scrutiny. Okay? Anong ibig sabihin ng scrutiny? Yung pagbibilang na dyan. So meron silang mga scrutineers. Pagkatapos na tingnan nung isa, papasa na naman dun sa isa pang scrutineer, and then kapag na-validate na nung dalawa, babasahin na yung pangalan. Okay? Pag nabasa na yung pangalan, yan ay i-thread nila, no? Unti-unti nila, isa-isa, bawat balota, i-thread nila. Tapos, ay ilalagay nga nila dun sa urn, and then yung urn, kapag halimbawa, nakakuha na sila ng 2/3 majority. Okay. Kung 132 ang cardinal electors, hindi ako mathematician, pero lumalabas na mga 89 votes ang kailangan. So, kapag halimbawa nakakuha sila ng 89 votes or more, okay, yung mga na-thread na yon, natusok na yun, mga balota, iulog nila doon ngayon sa, kumbaga, sa oven, tapos lalagyan nila ngayon ng, kumbaga, ay chemical, dahil nga nakuha na yung 2/3 majority, so yung chemical na yon, dapat puti yung lumabas sa usok sa chimney.
White smoke.
Okay, ngayon, kung sakali man na sa unang scrutiny ay wala, okay, so yung chemical na itim ang lalabas na usok ang ilalagay nila. Ngayon doon sa first day, sa May 7 mismo, isang scrutiny lang ang gagawin nila. Then the succeeding days, merong dalawa na election sa umaga, and then meron namang dalawang election din sa hapon. So yun po. Ngayon, ang napag-alaman ko, kapag halimbawa after a period of mga 4 days, wala pa silang napili, ayan, papasok na naman ulit yung isang preacher, para magkaroon sila ng moment for reflection, prayer, discernment, until such time na makuha talaga nila yung 2/3 majority.
2/3 na yun, oo.
Yeah.
Alright.
So, mahaba-haba pa pala.
Proseso. Pero we joined you, Father, and the rest of our Catholic brothers and sisters in praying po for a very fruitful and safe process po of conclave tomorrow. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. That was Father Jerome Siciliano, the Executive Secretary of the CBCP's Commission on Public Affairs. Maraming salamat po.
Right, bukas na yung conclave.
Nila yan.
Yeah, bukas.
Nandun ang ating news anchor na kapatid, si Cheryl Cosim, and of course, ang News 5 correspondent natin, si Juan Gualvez, to take part in the coverage doon mismo sa Vatican.
Nakatutok sa smoke chimney. And before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. Life is fleeting, but love leaves a lasting mark. Make time for those who matter before time runs out. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.